Aloha, it's Dave Lawrence. How you doing? A big mahalo for tuning in today. I'm thrilled to have an amazing guitar player, songwriter taking some time for me. You may have heard him on the new song from the cool band Scarlet Haze with gifted frontwoman Kat Perkins. You may know him as guitarist for Guns N' Roses for the last several years, prominently featured on their Chinese Democracy album. He releases his own music with his Bumblefoot, and you can hear it, plus learn more at his hip website, bumblefoot.com. He's toured performing with Lita Ford, has crafted music used on MTV, VH1, and even for the New York Islanders hockey team. Like me, he has a passion for fighting MS and uses his musical muscle to raise money and awareness in the fight against multiple sclerosis. We'll dig into these topics and more as we warmly welcome DIY entrepreneur, jack of all trades, and Guns N' Roses guitarist Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Aloha and mahalo, brother Ron.
How you doing, man? How's everything?
Everything is good, and a warm welcome. Thank you for taking a few minutes for me. I really appreciate it.
No, well, thank you, man. It's a pleasure.
And before we get into the musical side of your life, let's just talk Hawaii briefly. Do you have any experience with the islands?
Oh, yeah. Actually, first time I was there was about 15 years ago. I went to Maui and Kauai, and I loved it so much that I got myself a little timeshare in Poipu Resort and get out there whenever I can. And one of my favorite things is just driving around Haleakala. And remember the last time I was there a couple of years ago, and we just found this little village and just went down by the rocks and had some homemade banana bread, and it was just the most wonderful thing. And then we went down to, what was the name of that? It was like a little stand where they make these what was it, like fish tacos, and I can't remember the name of the place, but it was just like at the very end of the road, and yeah. So I know Hawaii, and and I've done the touristy stuff as well, and man, I just love it.
So you still have you have a timeshare here?
Sure do.
On Kauai in Poipu.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's a great place over there. And we're statewide. We're broadcasting from Honolulu, but we have a series of repeaters and stations throughout the state, so we're fortunate to be speaking to the area that you love so much. And I also heard you mentioning Maui. How often, when you're here, do you just go to Kauai, or do you venture out to the other islands?
Maui and the others, I'm trying to remember the last time we flew out there. It's all such a blur. It all sort of jumbles together in the memories.
When was the last time you were here?
It was 2009. That's right. We were rehearsing for the past year of touring with GNR, and we were in LA, and the wife flew out. I was like, you know what? Let's go. And we just a quick couple of days, and we just flew out and just had the most wonderful time. So it was in May of 2009 was the last time we were there.
Dig that. That's really hip. And you've been in Honolulu before or not?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and any particular memories of your time here? Any particular adventure that stands out?
Every moment is an adventure. Dude, you have no idea. It's like everything is an adventure. You know what just happened to me about a half hour ago?
What?
All right, this is something that your listeners will probably have never experienced, but I was out shoveling snow for like the 10th time in the past month, and not something you guys do very often. So I got this big mound of snow I'm pushing down the driveway, and the shovel snaps, the handle snaps, and next thing you know, I'm like, because I'm like pushing it, so I'm lunging towards it, and it snapped in just the perfect way that it formed this like wooden stake, the handle, that's like firmly mounted in the snow, aimed right at my chest. And I almost didn't make this phone call. I mean, every little moment is an adventure. Shoveling snow is an adventure. It's like, I don't know what it is, I don't know if it's the way you live or what, but I think everyone's got their own energy, and some of them just draw intensity and things like that. And I don't know if the lifestyle you live is because you give that off, or if you give that off because of the lifestyle you live. But, I mean, since joining GNR, the intensity knob has turned up in every way, and just little things like that. Like every moment is this like you're just right on the edge.
I can imagine. And
And then you just gotta laugh. You roll with it and you just laugh. It's like life is funny.
And you've got a few, and we'll get to some of the, you have a lot of input on having a positive attitude and stuff on Bumblefoot.com. Fans can really not only get a little insight into your head, but sort of what you were just talking about, insight into how you live your life and how the things you do bring things or don't bring things back to you. How did you get hooked up with Scarlet Haze? What brought that into your life?
That was through the guys at Dirtbag Records, who I've known for a long time, and they said, hey, we got this song, we got this artist, we would love to have you play guitar on it, and it was a real cool song, and I did a bunch of music tracks for it, and then that is how we crossed paths, and I just saw Scarlett last week. We were both in L.A. for the big music convention out there, and we finally got to like just kind of hang out a bit, and she's phenomenal. She's wonderful.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I've been enjoying the whole record. You're featured on the single "Reach Down." The album is due out in a few months, and we're more. It sounds like, and I read an interview or two with you where you've discussed it, and I had heard that the label had essentially brought the song to you and asked what you thought. Was "Reach Down" the only one that was recorded, or were there other songs and you gravitated towards that?
That was the one. I mean, there's another one. Actually, they gave me like 6 songs to check out, and that was the first of them. And I mean, we're still talking about maybe doing some writing together, and maybe I could throw a couple of things on another song or two. So we'll see. It's just kind of, that's the thing about an album. It's never done. You just pick a point where you stop working on it. So the album is due in a couple of months, and we may just, keep adding things and doing things until the moment of where it needs to be manufactured. And sometimes it just works that way, and very often the very last minute things that you throw on there are the best things.
That's certainly what happened. Paranoid album.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of great tunes come out that way. So you're thinking on top of it. So Scarlet Haze, as in between now and then, when it came to recording, were you doing the recording around the band, or you sort of just did it? You added it to the track all by yourself, basically.
And I did myself in my own little studio in New Jersey. I picked up this old house. I don't live there. I just go there to make noise. And it's an old house that I just gutted and turned into a studio. And I do everything there. That's my little bat cave, a little place where I just get to get away from everything and just focus and make music just night and day.
So how much interaction had you had with Kat prior to actually recording it?
Not much. I just kind of banged it out, and then I was like, that's great. And then I did a vocal. I was like, that's great. And that was it. It's like everyone's just kind of got faith in the other, and it all comes together.
And I think that's one of the things fans often find fascinating about music, and it's nothing new. It's been that way for decades. So you had at least met her prior to doing the recording?
No,
you hadn't met her.
And that's the thing. Like for the last years, ever since things have gone more digital, you don't need to be there anymore. Right. And in the old days, you had to fly out and physically be there. And now it's just, all right, we're going to send you a mix and play to this, and all right, here's my tracks, and just, import them into your software, and it's so different now. I mean, you can actually record at the same time. Like I know with Cubase from Steinberg, that software, I think you can be in one part of the world, someone else could be in another, and you could be linked up through the internet and recording at the same time, like both seeing the same screen opened and recording together in different places. I mean, it's amazing what could be done now.
Yeah, it is. And you're a real tech savvy kind of guy. Finally, say again.
I love it.
Just as a wrap up with them, what is Kat like to be around? She has this really sultry, sexual sort of personality. What are the things that you've done with her outside of music? Any fun stuff?
Let me see. Last weekend, just pretty much running around Anaheim a little bit. What do we do? I mean, mostly just hanging and talking, and just, yeah.
Okay.
That's the thing. It's like I find that when you're an intense performer like she is, It could go either way when you're not performing. Either you're just as intense, or you can be, the pendulum can be the complete other side of the spectrum where you're just as mellow as can be and laid back.
And which is she?
Yeah, it was pretty, it was like it was all just easy going, relaxed, just talking about life, music, everything.
Okay, so she's more laid back, you're saying?
When we were hanging, yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on what we were doing. If we're just kind of just sitting in a room talking, as opposed to, I guess if we went to Disneyland together, it'd probably be a little crazier. But yeah, it was cool. I mean, people are normal.
Well, I'm going to talk to her in about an hour, so it'll be nice to.
She's great. She's smart. She's talented. She's definitely got she has real good character.
Oh, that's cool. And speaking of characters, you've really gotten to be around some, and you really have. And I'm very curious because when I think of the brand Guns N' Roses, I think of Axl. Obviously, I think of the enormous success that he's had, and the fact that he could really choose whoever he wants to populate his group. He has a wide range of opportunities available to hire musicians. How was it that you first got the gig in Guns N' Roses?
It was in 2004, and it was, you know who Joe Satriani is?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, he shot me an email, said, hey, Ron, some friend of mine is working with them and told me they're looking for a new guitar player, so I recommended you, so they might get in touch, just so you know. And like a few hours later, they got in touch, and we just started emailing, started calling, talking to management, talking to the producer of the album and band members, and we talked for about 2 months, and then there was a whole big gap of time, and then like a year and a half later, the road manager got in touch, was like, hey, we're going to be hitting the road, would you want to do this? And, originally I told them no, because I was so busy, like I was touring myself in Europe, and my thing was growing, and yeah, it wasn't Guns N' Roses, but you know what, it was mine.
Sure.
And it was my own little legacy in the guitar community or whatever it was. And between that and producing like a dozen albums at the time, and licensing music to TV shows and whatever else, and I was teaching. I built that up to the point where I was teaching out of an accredited college in New York State, and just every different avenue of my life was taking steps forward. And I knew that if I joined Guns, half of those things would be wiped away because I would be on the road all the time. I wouldn't be able to, teach a semester somewhere and things like that.
It's a real commitment.
Also, I had to just really feel a connection to the people. And at the time, like dealing with the manager that they had at the time, it just didn't feel right, and I told them no. And I continued on with my thing, and all was fine. And then they got back in touch like a year and a half later and said, would you want to reconsider and try this? And I talked to them again, and actually what happened was I told them no again, and they called, and I hung up, and then what happened was I had a friend of mine call for me. It was a longer story. I mean, there ended up getting in like a fight with the manager, because when I told him no, he put out a press release saying that, just stupid baby stuff. So I was like really against working with them, just because of all of that. Like, this is not the kind of people and like the kind of stuff I want in my life.
Right.
So I had a friend call, a lawyer friend, to call the management company to basically tell them, stop calling me, leave me alone. And the guy calls me back. He's like, you may want to talk to them. I'm like, no. Because they did some really crooked stuff. Like when I said no, talking blackmail, where I had to contact the FBI, like that level of stuff.
Wow.
So, yeah, I should probably write a book.
Sounds like it.
It would make an interesting movie. So he's like, just talk to him. So I did, and And then he's like, just go meet the band and jam with them. And I did, and you know what? They were cool guys, and they were a great band. I was like, you know what? Let me just give it a shot, just, see what happens.
And you had not met them prior to that?
No.
Had you spoken to Axl prior to that?
No.
So you had never had...
No, yeah. It was kind of like he was Charlie, and, and everyone else was like the Angels, it's like
Right.
that kind of deal, which he opened up a lot more since. But at that time, he definitely was a little more reclusive than I think he is now.
Give me that's a fascinating first couple years how it came together.
Yeah.
Give me the moment when the actual first moment when you enter into his presence. Sort of describe before it happens, and then you meet him, and describe it, like paint the picture like we're there with you.
Let's see. Well, I was playing with the band, and we had the first jam, and I did like 3 songs, and everything was cool. I was like, let's do another 3 tomorrow. Cool. And at this point, the tour was starting in 9 days, the world tour. And I had pretty much 7 rehearsals to learn everything.
Yikes.
And get my gear in shape and coordinate everything with the band and make it happen. So I had 1 week to get myself to do it. So I think it was like maybe the second or third rehearsal, Axl came down and we were jamming to this one song, people are people. Like, I don't get starstruck or anything, and it wasn't weird to me, or like to me, it's like, all right, here, it's like, cool, the singer's here. About damn time. Let's do this. And I remember he just kind of yelled into my ear while I was playing this one song. He's like, this part of the song reminds me of Hey Bulldog from the Beatles. And I was like, oh, cool, he's a Beatles dude, And that right there, I was like, all right, I started feeling like the affinity, the connection.
Yeah.
And I remember he brought in a big tray of burgers for everybody. And at that point, I think I hadn't eaten like red meat in about 5 years. I was like, yeah, let me have a burger. But if I'm going to break the streak, why not do it something memorable? So I was like, when's the last time you had red meat? I was like, I was having burgers with Axl and everybody.
And he physically brought them in?
I think he was holding the tray or the bag, or maybe someone that was with him was. I'm trying to remember back. I think it was him hanging out, and Sebastian and his wife, and I think it was their kid, and the producer was there, and I think he was filming it. And I mean, there were a bunch of people there, and at that point, I didn't know who anybody was really. So, it's kind of hard to remember because they were just faces at that point.
What a great first interaction, though. I mean, was that it? You're playing, and he leans into your ear, and he says that. That must have been a great moment about the Beatles.
Yeah, he was talking about the Beatles and eating burgers, and he was just a regular cool dude. He was fine, and that made me happy because most of the singers I've dealt with in my life were not so cool and not so down to earth and not so easy to just hang with and talk to. And I got to say that looking back on the last, I would say, I've had a guitar in my hand for 35 years. I'm 41, started real young. And from the very beginning, the first thing I did is I put a band together with an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old when I was 6, and started making demos and doing shows and making merch and doing everything that Kiss did. They were our model,
Right.
So I've dealt with, between that and all different cover bands I played with and as a teenager and all different bands, definitely the easiest singer I ever dealt with and the most competent, the most caring about the music and about his own performance and everything. It's him.
Good.
So, like, he has such a, there's like so much stuff that comes along with his name. Like, people, he doesn't go out in the press. He doesn't do all this stuff. He doesn't go out and let people get to know him the way the people that know him. And what happens is I find that if you're someone that has his level of notoriety, it seems like people will just make up stuff about you if you're not in their presence. Almost like, it's like, let me see if I can get him to come out and yell at us.
Right.
Just to get some kind of connection. And people will make stuff up, And if it's entertaining enough, whether it's truthful or not, people are going to run with it because it's just fun to believe and it's a fun story and it's fun to think. And, get this crazy reputation of, he left the fans waiting for 3 hours because he didn't like the way his lamb was cooked.
Right.
No, not true. Stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, there's been times where we would just hang out for like 20 hours straight, just the two of us in a room, just like talking about music and just eating and drinking and chatting and listening to music and hanging out and just corny jokes and yeah, it's just real band stuff.
When I see him, my own perception, when I see him on stage over the last several years, the way you describe him as a really down-to-earth, easygoing guy, to me, totally comes across in the way he dresses and presents himself. His look on stage, to me, is so casual and welcoming and approachable, I guess is a great word, that the things you're saying don't shock me at all. As a guy who's had all this experience with him, what are some of the misconceptions about him and working in that band?
I think a lot of people want to think that he's this dictator and we're just like a bunch of just hired henchmen and that our hearts aren't in it and he tells us when to breathe and stuff like that. And it's such nonsense. No. No. I don't know. I mean, it's just...
How about the music part? Like listening to music. Are there musical moments you guys have sat and have you bonded over other things besides the Beatles? Listening sessions, maybe.
He'll just like get behind a piano and start noodling or if we're on the tour bus and I have an acoustic and I'm just noodling and start busting out cover songs. I remember like one of the most fun times was after we finished touring in 2007. We were in Osaka, Japan, and we went to this little bar that like stayed open for us, and someone brought a bunch of music gear there, and we just jammed. I mean, just the most ridiculous stuff we played. Everything from like Tom Jones to, of course, I busted that one out. I mean, just everything, and just playing whatever. And it was I was on guitar, Frank was on drums, Axel was singing. Then at one point, Axel sat down and I sang "Knocking on Heaven's Door," and yeah.
I think covers are an area that because it's funny you mentioned that, because that was the next thing on the sheet here. The covers that you guys do are epic, and you've provided some insight into the casual way that it comes about. I do have to credit you. The jam, I've seen a few jams on, I guess it's Floyd's Another Brick that you guys sometimes throw out live, and it's so cool because it has an improvisational, jammy, like Grateful Dead kind of feel to it. How did those songs end up as part of the show?
Completely just randomly improvised. Like me and Richard would be doing something before going into November Rain, and I remember one time we were just in the key of D and just started doing that stuff, and it just turned into Floyd. Then Axel came out and went with it, and then I was like, that was cool, we ended up doing it the next night, and that's happened a few times. Like a lot of the stuff that we do, like really just about all of the stuff that we do, like the little breaking into stuff or just playing a cover, is almost every time it hasn't been planned ahead. It's just been completely improvised. Like we started doing what do you call it, A Whole Lot of Rosie. So I just one day just went on stage, and then he sang the line. So I did it again. He sang the next line, went into the song. I remember DJ was like, I don't know, just like follow me.
Brilliant, dude.
And we just kind of learned it on stage, as we were playing it, and then just kept it in the set for a lot of the tour. Like it really is just like that kind of just normal band stuff. Like you just make up something, and if it's good, it sticks, and if it's not, it's something different the next night that didn't stick, and you're just doing whatever else comes to mind.
Is there a nightly set list and that stuff? Is there actually a set list?
There's more like a song list than a set list. Like there's a definite batch of songs that we play, but like we'll start, like the first few songs will usually be the same, and then we'll start changing up a few little things. But overall, I found that there's a certain structure to the set that we would do each time. But just subtle, might take the song better. Instead of doing it towards the end, we do it towards the beginning, or little things like that.
That's nice. That's a really cool thing. That's, I compliment you again, and then please pass along to him the fact that he does not follow such a rigid structure, and that those little moments like the one that I told you about, watching you guys very quietly sort of lift off the Floyd jam, and as you described it, it sort of seemed like it came out of nowhere spontaneously and became something. But I offer you both a high five. That's the kind of stuff that I think keeps concerts interesting.
Yeah. Well, thank you, man. Thanks.
You're welcome. And one of the things about you that, for me, it's my mom. For you, I think it's your friend Ralph Rosa.
Yep.
Take me to the inspirations for your personal commitment to the fight against multiple sclerosis or MS.
Well, yeah, a close friend of mine, great musician. He had an up-and-coming band in Puerto Rico, and then he just started getting like a couple of dizzy spells and things and some numbness, and he went to a doctor, and he was diagnosed. He had MS. And at that point, everything changes. Life changes. And it's funny, the first thing that I found interesting was how when anything changes in your life, everyone around you, like you're the same person, but everyone around you changes. Like some people will run from you like you have the plague. Other people will draw close. Other people will become more like opportunists. And a small handful will stay the same. Whether something good happens to you or something traumatic or bad happens to you, the same reaction happens, with all the people around you. Yeah.
So you drew closer? Is that what I should get out of that?
Actually, we stayed the same. We were good friends. We still are. We, email a few times a day and cracking stupid jokes. But now his condition, it was a primary progressive type, which is just like a slow decline. Like he doesn't have remissions or anything, or it just like it's a continuous attack on itself. So now he's bedridden, and he has a keypad on the other end of the room and a light, like a laser, that he points to the letters and blinks his eye to activate, and that's how he writes emails now. And we stay in touch, and he's the same guy he was, just his brain says lift right arm, and there's no clear path to get there.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. My mom has it, and she has the kind of MS that you're describing. Thank God she has not gotten that bad, but she spends a lot of time in bed and can't use her right, side, which was her traditional writing arm. She's had to learn how to do stuff with her left, and it's just impressive when you go to your site. You're very giving to use your power to try to help him and to help people in general with it. So hats off, Brother Ron.
All right. He was diagnosed in '97, and by around '99, he finally got all the paperwork in place and formed a nonprofit organization where me and my wife and all his friends and his family, we all just volunteer time to help do whatever we can. We've done benefit concerts. We've done a lot of comedy dinner shows with a bunch of comedians, and I think, we've probably raised total maybe $100,000 that went directly to the labs, and we go right to the labs and look through the microscopes and get reports and see exactly what kind of direction they're taking things and what plan they have, and we just fund the labs. We don't give it to another organization that's going to put some into advertising and some into this. We want it to go where it's actually needed most.
And that's, I can only speak for my mom, but because she's the only person with MS I know really well. But I know that's always been a big frustration for folks who have MS, is that they don't want to give it to the MS Society, let's just say. They'd rather do what you're doing. They want it to go right to the research. So that's really huge. And again, at bumblefoot.com, Ron prominently right on the left when you get to his site, you'll see the icon. So it's not something you bury. It's a major right up front thing.
And anything like any autograph stuff that I do, $5 goes to that. Yeah.
It's cool. As Axel, is he aware of your passion? Is there any way he's contributed? Or?
I don't know. I don't know if he's even aware of, like, I don't know if we ever actually, like, talked about that stuff. We might have.
Yeah, just something that...
Pretty giving guy. Like, he's done a lot of stuff, but I don't think he wants people to know. Like, I think he wants to do it because he's doing it, not for publicity or anything like that.
Oh, absolutely. I was just saying, you're such a righteous guy to do it yourself that I would think if he took one look at your site, he'd want to give you a high five for your efforts.
He does stuff too, like we'll sign a guitar and auction it off for a kid's charity and things like that. So yeah.
It's happening. It's good to give back, and it's great to highlight that part of what you're doing because it's just a good thing to show other people. When you do interviews, you don't often get a moment to focus on something really positive. So I encourage people at bumblefoot.com to take a look at the Multiple Sclerosis Research Foundation link and the fact that Ron does this with his music in terms of donating a portion of it. In the summer of 2010, this past summer, I was fortunate. We had the Four Tops and the Temptations come through town, and I was blessed to get to interview the sole surviving members of each band, Otis Williams from the Temps and my buddy Duke Fakir from the Four Tops. And at your site, you've just unearthed this thing, recorded a few years ago, your cover of Bernadette. How did you come to do that?
I am a big fan of the Four Tops. I'll be there, baby, I need your lovin', so much good stuff.
Epic.
So yeah, I mean, just knowing their music, just saying, you know what, I want to do a couple of cover songs. That was like one of the first ones that came to mind. It's just such a great song.
And you did it a few years ago. Only now you're kind of digging it up?
Yeah, there was never the right time to put it out. Like, there was never an album that it belonged on, that it would fit with, or and then also just the years fly by when you're touring. And only now is the technology in a place where it's easy to release a single and for people to buy a single.
Right.
So, like, even a couple of years ago, if I wanted to do that, I don't think anybody would have even looked at it, really.
Well, it's nice that you can take advantage of your site to sort of show off some of your influences. You're a very busy guy. How important to your success has an agent been? And if not, what are the ingredients you have for staying so busy?
An agent is incredibly important, and I've never had one. Yeah, man, I do all the managing, all the agent stuff, all the promotion, everything I do myself. I'm just total wearing every hat. It's been like that from day one, and it's what I know. And the few times that I did try and connect with a manager, I just found that either they were just using me to get themselves hookups and didn't have any of their own, and just wanted to get my name on their resume and had nothing to offer and did nothing and just wanted to spend my money, which I didn't even have. That's why I had them to try and make money. So yeah, it's tough, but at this point, the biggest battle in my life is the clock time. There's just not enough of it, and I think now, like this year, being that it looks like we had a tentative U.S. tour that's going to be put aside for a little bit before we do it. We were going to be heading out February, and it's not happening. So now suddenly I feel like I was just given time. So I'm just running with it, and I'm going to try and put out as much music as possible. Actually, the next thing I want to do, I'm going to look at it this weekend and see just what's possible, and I want to start auctioning myself off musically. I want to do an auction where I'll play guitar on one of your songs. I'll do an auction where I'll give you music for your TV show, and all the money I'm going to put toward flood relief. Because right now, Brazil is a mess, Australia is a mess, Sri Lanka, and a lot of other places. It's been a wet winter, or summer for them.
And you have enough money to do that, Ron?
Well, no, but the thing is, I have my currency is music. My value is music. So if there's somebody that wanted me to play on their recording, I mean, basically they're donating, and what they're getting for like the money they're paying me is simply just going toward flood relief and to help others. So they're still getting what they would have gotten, but I'm just going to put it toward those who need it a little more.
And you can afford to do that?
Uh, when I can no longer afford it, I'll stop. But until then,
You got a good heart, dude.
I could, I'm able to pay my bills for the next few months until we hit the road. While I'm in the black, let me just do what I can.
It's impressive. And to think you're accomplishing all these little side things without an agent, like the Lita Ford thing, you dialed that up yourself to fill time. How did you get?
We had met a few times. We hung out like mutual friends at a barbecue, her family and mine, and there's this real cool thing called Chiller Theater in Jersey, where it's just all these different, like this odd cross section of different actors and musicians. I just ate a peanut and choking. What a day! I'm choking on a peanut and I almost get impaled by a
snow shovel.
So yeah, so we kind of knew each other, and she had a tour coming up in 2009. She just did the first show, and her guitar player, something happened with his what do you call it, passport, and he couldn't get out to Sweden to do the show, and she tried to just kind of handle double guitar duties and sing, and it was just a tough time, and she called me right from the stage, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Nothing right now. I'm off for the summer. We just, we're taking a break for the summer because we were working off 2009, just prepping for the upcoming tours, just upping our gear, reworking a lot of the songs guitar-wise to come up with parts that will just be more complementary to each other between the three guitarists." So yeah, it's like I'm free for the summer. It's like, can you help me? It's like, when do you need me?
That's so
like,
cool.
2 days. It's like, how many songs? 15. It's like, all right, I'm on it. So I learned all her stuff, 15 songs in 2 days, and she's like, also, I need a drummer and a bass player. I'm making some changes in the lineup. I was like, oh no. I was like, all right. So my drummer Dennis Lee Flang from my own Bumblefoot band, he jumped on drums, and we learned the stuff in 2 days, ran down to our house, went through it once, and hit the road.
That is brilliant.
And then we did that for the summer, and then I went back and continued, with guns. We just did the final touches, production rehearsals, and then flew out to Taiwan, and then Seoul, and then Tokyo, and Osaka, and Canada, and South America, Latin America, and Scandinavia, Russia, all of Europe, Australia, and finished in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, I ran through all the dates prior to talking to you, so I could see where you were at with that. Very impressive. A lot of cool shows, and so you had said, as we wrap this up, is there a North American thing likely to? You guys have not done Chinese Democracy in the U.S.
The last time we did a real tour in the U.S. was 2006, the end of 2006. We did like 4 warm-up shows in May of 2006 in New York. We did some quickies in September of just like 2 shows in Vegas and San Francisco, and yeah. So we're definitely overdue, and I'm hoping that we get to do it.
I certainly
to come out your way.
Dude.
God, that would be phenomenal if we could play Hawaii.
Seriously, I hope that something like that could happen. This market is starved for that kind of entertainment.
And we're just waiting on, it's up to booking agents and promoters and vendors and venues, and I mean, it's a lot of people to make it happen. So hopefully they can.
Well, I'm rooting for you, and I know you'll stay busy with stuff in the interim. And
Oh, that's great, man. Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Good luck, brother Ron.
Thanks a lot. Have a great one.
You too. Aloha, bro.
Aloha. Bye-bye. Aloha. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal of Guns N' Roses, and you're tuned to the only show that matters with my friend Dave Lawrence. Aloha, this is Ron Bumblefoot Thal of Guns N' Roses, and you're tuned to the only show that matters with my friend Dave Lawrence. Aloha, this is Ron Thal, Bumblefoot of Guns N' Roses, and I'm hanging with my good buddy Dave Lawrence, and it's that magical time of day. Hey, Brother Dave, have a happy 420. Hey, how about some guns?